Candid, never before heard comments from the parents of baby DeOrr, who rarely talk to the media, but after 4 years have so much to say. I'm Kim Fields, and this is a KTVB exclusive, the search for DeOrr Kunz Jr.
What's the address of your emergency?
I'm actually camping in Leadore, just outside of Leadore. My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
4 years later, still no answers. Not a trace of baby DeOrr.
The worst nightmare a parent could ever go through, really.
Just want my boy. I just want my boy.
In a KTVB exclusive, DeOrr Kunz Jr.'s parents confront the accusations head on.
What is it like to be accused of murdering your son?
It's sickening. It is sickening how quickly people will turn.
And all the rumors surrounding the investigation.
Were you offered immunity?
Yes, I was.
There's been rumors of drinking or drugs, and there was none of that.
How, after 4 years, there could finally be a break in the case.
It feels like, okay, we're starting to move forward on this and get to the real facts and truth about this.
And why the parents seem so confident the case will be solved, and soon.
Just bear with me. I promise I'll be able to prove my son's mother's innocence and be able to give everybody answers soon enough. I've always called him Goober. That's just been my nickname for him, just because the stuff he does, the kid stuff he does. I've always been very proud of him. I didn't really cry about much. He just was just easy going.
He's just a good kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just little things like the smell of lavender baby wash. I can't smell that because it takes me back to giving him baths. Some days it's like I feel like I just saw him, like he was just with me. And then other times it feels like it's been forever.
It was July 2015 on a camping trip to Timber Creek Campground near Leadore, Idaho. 4 people made the trip. DeOrr's mom, Jessica Mitchell, his dad, DeOrr Kunz, his great-grandfather, Bob Walton, and Bob's friend, Isaac Reinwand. They were the last to see baby DeOrr alive. He vanished on the 2nd day of camping when Jessica and Vernal left the campsite to go fishing at a nearby reservoir. The parents said maybe DeOrr was kidnapped from the campground or that an animal had gotten him. There's one more theory, that someone on that camping trip did something to him.
Do you have anything to hide?
No, absolutely not.
We had nothing to do with this, and we don't know anymore. And I understand how it looks and how it sounds. We just don't know anymore. And we wish we did, trust me. We wish we did. This is not a way for anybody to live.
Accusations and rumors about the parents' involvement began to emerge not long after baby DeOrr disappeared. And after 1 year of no answers, now retired Limhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman named the parents suspects.
We've given them too many opportunities to tell us what happened if it was an accident, and there's been no interest in going that direction. So that tells me there's only one other possibility. It has to be a homicide.
Bowerman told me in 2016 it was highly unlikely baby DeOrr was kidnapped. There's one road in and one road out to the remote Timber Creek Campground. And if an animal or person had taken him, there would be evidence left behind, like DeOrr's boots that were too big for him. Bowerman believed they would have fallen off. But after days and weeks of searching, not a trace of DeOrr found at the campground.
Sheriff Bowerman, he said, I don't even know if DeOrr was up there at that campground.
You know, eventually I'll be able to prove a lot of these theories wrong, but...
What do you mean by that?
That's just a theory that is wrong. You know, my son was very...
Bowerman also told me DeOrr and Jessica couldn't keep their stories straight.
Were you changing your stories, and why?
I believe that a lot of it is like blocking things out. You know, you're so emotional, you're trying to remember everything as they're asking you all these questions 1,000 times. And being drained and not sleeping and, you know, everything all at once, you block things out or you forget.
It wasn't just Bowerman who thought the parents were hiding something. In November 2015, 4 months after baby DeOrr disappeared, the family began working with Philip Klein, a private investigator they hired out of Texas. After about 6 weeks on the job, Klein made his announcement.
And I was very clear. I said, look, you're not gonna like what I have to say. And it was like, oh my God, these two people are suspects.
Are you lying?
Absolutely not. I have nothing good to say about Klein in all reality, because he was there for the money. He didn't care about my son. The minute he got that money, he was, oh, it's the parents.
I'm surprised by your reaction, really, because, I mean, in not so much words, he essentially called you a murderer, Jessica.
Yeah, and that, I just think about the truth is gonna come out. And, you know, like other people, they're gonna eat their words because I have nothing to hide.
Your name's destroyed, your life's destroyed. And unfortunately, the minute he come out and said that he believes that my son is deceased, people stopped looking for him. They just automatically condemned him to being deceased and condemned me and his mother as branded killers, as something we're not. And it was wrong, it really was. And then the social media thing just exploded it, and everybody has their conspiracy theories.
Vernal DeOrr says Klein accused them without any evidence of proof. His attorney tells me they've asked, but they say Klein has never provided them with one factual piece of evidence to back his claims. Klein is now off the case.
But why would he do this, though? Why would he, just so that he can solve the case? What is your belief on that?
It wasn't even to get solve the case. It was just to be able to be right in front of it was just to be able to have more
media coverage?
More media coverage, to be in front of a camera, to try and get more clients for a business. It had nothing to do with finding my child.
Klein even said Jessica confessed to knowing where the body was.
Did you know where the body was? Were you going to?
Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure that I would have been arrested a long time ago if that's what I said.
It's one thing for a private investigator in Texas who you say is media hungry to name you as a suspect, to, as you say, kind of throw your name through the mud. But it's another to have a sitting sheriff call our newsroom and say, you know, I am naming them as suspects. I think this is a case of homicide.
Well, that doesn't mean it's how it was. That was just, in his opinion, we were suspects.
Current Limhi County Sheriff Steve Penner does not call the parents suspects. And if they say they had nothing to do with baby DeOrr's disappearance, then who did? After all, there were 2 more people on that camping trip, including Isaac Reinwand.
Do you think he had anything to do with your son's disappearance?
I feel like, yes, he does. I felt it from day one.
Isaac's response next. What happened to baby DeOrr? The parents say the 2-year-old disappeared while camping near Leadore, Idaho in July 2015. That maybe he'd been kidnapped or an animal had gotten him. Retired Limhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman didn't buy it. He named the parents suspects in 2016. He said he believed Jessica and Vernal DeOrr know where their son is and whether he is dead or alive.
And they could not pass the section on, do you know where DeOrr Kunz is at this time, and do you know what happened to him? They could not pass those 2 parts of the polygraph.
Jessica has said she believes Isaac Reinwand is to blame. Isaac and Jessica's grandfather, Bob Walton, were also on that camping trip. Isaac was Bob's friend. The parents say they didn't even know Isaac until that trip. They say Bob wanted him to come.
I felt it from day one. Just a lot of red flags have come up for me. And
what was it? Can you share that? What were the red flags?
He was gone longer than anybody else was from the campground. Didn't help us search at all for my son. Was drinking. Stayed in his tent the whole time people were searching. Factory resets on his phone 3 different times. just odd things.
I have to ask, did you do something to DeOrr?
No.
Jessica says she and Vernal DeOrr walked away from their campsite to go fishing at a nearby reservoir. She says they left baby DeOrr with Bob. Isaac was also there. But why would Isaac do something to DeOrr?
He was upset that my son was there. And the night that we got there, on Thursday night, he said, "Why would you even bring a kid up here at 2.5? You know, and I said, "Because he's my son and he goes everywhere with us. Why would we not bring our child camping? He loves camping. It's not his first camping trip, you know?" So there was just a lot of things that did not add up to me. And I feel it in my gut that something is not right.
All I know is DeOrr was up there with us, we were camping, next thing you know, it was gone. And there was 4 adults up there, and for some reason, none of us know what went down. Somebody does, but I can't point fingers at somebody when I don't know, you know?
Isaac says he was questioned by the FBI, Lemhi County, and Bonneville County detectives. He also took a lie detector test, but wouldn't tell me if he passed or failed.
What do you think happened to baby DeOrr?
I have no idea. Maybe it was an accident or something, I don't know.
Do you think he's still alive?
I don't have a comment on that.
Do you think Jessica had anything to do with his disappearance?
Ooh, I'm not gonna comment on that either.
Why not?
I just feel like I just want to stay neutral in this situation, you know? Don't want to point fingers. I don't think it's nice or it's right.
Do you think Vernal DeOrr had anything to do with baby DeOrr's disappearance?
I have no idea.
What about Bob?
Bob?
There was one other person at the campground, baby DeOrr's great-grandfather, Bob Walton. Bob died of cancer in June 2019. Trina Bates Clegg is Bob's daughter and Jessica's mom. She says a Bonneville County detective talked with Bob one last time, the day before he died, about what happened.
Did your dad talk about that day a lot?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. He talked about it that, you know, he just doesn't remember a lot. You know, he remembers staring at the mountains and staring at the birds, and, you know, he remembers the baby playing in the dirt, and, you know, he remembers the baby getting candy, and he would say that all the time is, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry that I took my eyes off of him. You know, he felt really guilty because, you know, he was the last one to see baby DeOrr, and my dad went to his grave very, very sorry for this, for taking his eye off that little boy.
I know that this needs to be solved. I know the parents need closure, and I know everybody just wants to know what happened. So, and I wish I could tell everybody exactly what went down completely, but I don't remember everything.
Bowerman never named Bob or Isaac a suspect. The current Lemhi County Sheriff Steve Pinner does not consider any of the 4 people a suspect. Instead, he calls them uncleared persons of interest. He told me, quote, "Other people have called them suspects, but I'm not committed to that theory. You can't just pursue one theory." Pinner has been the lead investigator on the case since DeOrr Kunz Jr. disappeared. And after 4 years of searching, could there be a break in the case?
Just bear with me. I promise I'll be able to prove my and my son's mother's innocence and be able to give everybody answers soon enough.
Next, why baby DeOrr's parents seem so confident the public will soon learn the truth.
What's the address of your emergency?
My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
In the days after 2-year-old DeOrr Kunz Jr. disappeared from Timber Creek Campground in East Idaho, search and rescue, law enforcement, and dozens of volunteers scoured the area looking for any sign of him. They never found a thing.
They were hollering baby DeOrr.
Bobby Bird searched for 3 days. He's lived in nearby Leadore his whole life and knows these mountains well.
So you guys scoured, is it fair to say, every inch of this campground?
Definitely every inch of this right here for sure, multiple times. We walked clear up to the reservoir 5 feet apart and down that way for a couple miles.
And no sign?
No. And they had people diving in the water too.
Bobby says he never talked with the parents or Isaac or Bob. He remembers seeing them. He says they were told to stay back, away from the search.
What was the mood like that day? What was...
It's kind of you could tell the parents were kind of scared, kind of a little bit, just kind of an off feeling. I mean, I see them on the side stand there watching and thanking everybody that come up, but I didn't really talk to them. I just seen them from a distance.
Baby DeOrr disappeared on a Friday. By Sunday, Bobby says law enforcement didn't ask for any more volunteers.
After the first day or two, and we didn't see nothing, it just seemed off to me, kind of, the whole situation.
What do you mean?
It seemed off like if he was here for sure, because we scoured it enough and there were so many people. If something was there, I think something would have been spotted, in my opinion.
So kind of as the hours and the days went on, you started getting skeptical?
Started of the story that was told a little bit.
The parents, Jessica Mitchell and Vernal DeOrr Kunz, said maybe an animal had gotten to him.
I've seen bear.
You have?
I have seen bear just right up here on multiple different occasions.
So is there a chance then?
I guess there's a chance, but with loose cowboy boots and stuff, if a bear was carrying, I don't see how shoes and stuff would stay on.
The parents also thought baby DeOrr could have been kidnapped. Law enforcement has said that's highly unlikely given the remoteness of the campground. There's only one road in and out.
You know how rough the road is coming up here,
it's pretty rough.
And you can hear trucks coming from bouncing and stuff. If the family was right here, and I would think you'd hear somebody coming.
This was their campsite. This is where little baby DeOrr was reportedly last playing around, where he was last seen, where he was last sleeping. Their campfire pit was right there. Their tents were probably set over there next to those trees, and this was their picnic table. Do you go back to that campground often?
I try to go up there at least once a year. I absolutely hate it up there, but at the same time, it makes me feel closer to my son.
Vernal DeOrr just went to the campground in mid-June 2019 with North Carolina-based private investigator David Marshburn. He'd asked David and the Search for Me Foundation to get involved. After 4 years, could there finally be some answers?
I'm pretty confident we feel we have got what we need.
David says his cadaver dogs made a hard alert on a specific area of the campground. He says they detected a scent indicating the presence of a body or remains.
I believe the way that my dogs acted, that when they hit the water, they could sense it and then went to it. Can we 100% say it's DeOrr? No. Can we say it's an Indian from way back? No. We don't know what's 100% there. We just know the confidence in our dogs that there's human remains of some sort.
What was your emotional reaction to that news?
It was a lot of hope, like maybe this is it. Maybe we're getting answers. You know, we waited so long, and it would just, that's the hardest part about all this, is not knowing if he's alive or if he's gone, and I need to grieve and mourn the loss of my son. But I had every emotion, like anxiety, you know, sadness. I cried. I was hopeful that we were gonna get some sort of answer. You know, this is the start of some closure.
If David and his amazing team are correct, it's not the answer I want, but it is an answer. I can at least lay my son to rest, which is what he needs. He needs to be found. We need the answers. A lot of people would think that it would be just your heart would sink, and it's honestly, it is a form of hope because, again, like I said, it is not the answer I want, but it is an answer. And after 4 years, an answer is better than nothing.
If there is finally an answer, what is it about this time? This search with David and his dogs, when others scoured the area and didn't find a thing.
Well, I wouldn't say they didn't. I believe some of them did. Based off of information, you know, talking, some dogs did probably alert further down the stream. But, you know, if you know how cadaver dogs work, pretty much, if you're going downstream and a dog comes down from below and something's up here, well, the water's toting the smell, so they follow it. And you know, it's all in how the trainer does with their dog, how they read their dog. But at the time when our dog goes down there and I'm trying to take him to a break, my dog kept working. He just went, and it's like, here he is, you know, there's something here.
David says Sheriff Penner was there when it happened. Penner closed down the campground 2 weeks later. So far, the sheriff won't say what, if anything, they uncovered in the area of the hard alert. He says the closure was simply part of an annual search effort. But David believes it was to further investigate the area his dogs alerted to.
We got an area, well, now the sheriff's office has to do, like they said, due diligence to follow up on it. And if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not.
Next, baby DeOrr's parents answer all the rumors surrounding the investigation and what they're doing now, 4 years later. Two-year-old baby DeOrr vanished from Timber Creek Campground near Leadore, Idaho in July 2015. He was with his mom, Jessica Mitchell, his dad, DeOrr Kunz, his great-grandfather, Bob Walton, and Bob's friend, Isaac Reinwand.
I think that somebody took him. I still believe that. I still hang up his flyers. I still do what I have to do. It's the only thing I have left to do. There's no other options we have.
DeOrr says they used to get a lot of tips and calls of possible sightings, but after 4 years, not so much anymore. He blames Philip Klein, a Texas private investigator, for a lot of that. The family hired Klein 4 months after their boy disappeared to help find him. Klein asked them all questions in separate rooms. He handed over 10 hours of interviews to our news group.
You don't want to get things stirred up too much, you know, so you find out what's going on. You know that.
My mind tells me, at first my mind told me at that time this killed my son, this had something to do with it.
I don't care if it's my grandpa that's guilty. I don't care. Like, I just want my son back.
After about 6 weeks on the job, Klein named Jessica and DeOrr suspects. They say when that happened, the public stopped searching for their little boy. They say Klein accused them without any evidence of proof. They've asked, but they say Klein has never provided them with one factual piece of evidence to back his claims. Klein is now off the case.
He essentially said you had something to do with his disappearance.
I feel like Klein's a joke, honestly. He makes statements about like me saying I knew where my son was, but I wasn't going to tell them. If that was the case, I would have been arrested.
In my opinion, I wouldn't hire him to find a lost dog in an empty parking lot.
Both Klein and retired Limhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman said they doubted the child was kidnapped. Who would go to a remote campground to kidnap a child? They also found no evidence an animal took him. If someone, or all of them, on that camping trip knows what happened to baby DeOrr, would they eventually turn on one another? Law enforcement tried that tactic.
Were you offered immunity?
Yes, I was, and I told them no, because they offered me immunity if I told them where the body was. And I said,
who's they?
Bonneville County, FBI, and I believe it was Limhi County too.
So did they then thought you did it? They wanted to offer you immunity if you confessed and showed them where the body was?
Or if I had any knowledge of somebody doing it and me knowing where the body was. And I told them, yeah, I would love to sign this, but I don't have any information for you, so I'm not signing anything.
What was the immunity again? Was it a get out of jail card?
It
That's
was
what Klein said.
Like child endangerment or something like that, and probation. Something super small. And I said, well, that's all great and fine, but I don't have anything to tell you. I don't know. I would have come out with it a long time ago if I knew.
Have you ever been offered immunity? There was talk of that.
Oh, that was Klein, but again, yeah, Klein did, but if somebody comes to you and offers you immunity, you don't have any more information to give them, it really doesn't do you any good.
Both Klein and Bowerman said the parents kept changing their stories. They said Jessica and Vernal couldn't pass parts of a polygraph test. Jessica says she took 2 polygraphs, one with Bonneville County, the other with the FBI. She said she was never told she failed them.
You know, it amazes me because when I took my polygraph test, they said they were inconclusive passes. And I asked the guy what that meant. And he said, as a grieving mom, you know, he said, you're a grieving mom. This is an inconclusive past.
But they never gave me the results. It's the FBI. They don't have to. That's not what they do.
I took a lie detector test. I'm not commenting if it was positive or negative.
The fourth person on that camping trip, Bob Walton, has since passed away. He died in June 2019 from cancer.
For those of you who don't know, I'm his father, Colonel DeOrr Kunz. We really appreciate the support, the help, the communities that have come together for us. We will find him. One way or another, we will find him, no matter what it takes.
The parents also came under fire from the public for not grieving enough during the first few days.
Oh, you're not grieving the way that an innocent parent would grieve in those days right after he disappeared.
Yeah, it actually is comical, because how is a person supposed to grieve? Like, there's no set, there's not a book on, oh, if you lose a child or they're missing, this is how you're supposed to deal with it. Because I'm more of an internal person. I try not to cry. I try to numb myself, and that's what I did. But I couldn't leave my apartment for months. I didn't interact with people. I still have a hard time interacting with people and having friends and things like that, because it's so hard to know who to trust and who is there for the right reasons and who's not. And I grieve in my own way, and just because I'm not bawling every day does not mean that I'm not hurting.
Those people don't understand that when you lose a child, there's only so much grieving you can do, and you're still in find him mode. You ain't got time to grieve. You don't have time to, your whole idea is your mind is running 1,000,000 miles an hour. You will never feel so mentally exhausted. There's no pamphlet on this. There's no book that's been written. There's nothing you can, if you ever think this is what I would do in that situation, or this is what I would do, you're wrong. It is the most sickening and lost feeling you'll ever find in your life.
The public had another theory based on Jessica's custody of her 2 other children.
That was one public theory out there on social media, that you had either given up or lost custody of 2 of your other children, and that you no longer wanted DeOrr Jr.
I never signed over my rights. At the time, I lost my job, Vernal lost his job. We just had little man. And because I knew my ex-husband was more stable, I asked him, can you have more custody of the kids, because this is what is best for them.
Bowerman named the parents suspects in 2016, but never filed charges. He told me then he planned to take his time to make sure the case was solid. Bowerman retired later that year. One of the lead investigators on the case, Steve Pinner, became sheriff. He's never called Jessica or Vernal DeOrr suspects. He calls the 4 people at the campground uncleared persons of interest. He told me, quote, "Other people have called them suspects, but I'm not committed to that theory. You can't just pursue one theory."
But can you understand why some people in the public might
sure.
think that you are guilty?
Well, of course, I have to remember that if I wasn't in my shoes, I know how it looks, I know how it sounds. I know where they're coming from. The only difference is I wouldn't, much like most people that I've actually met, I wouldn't be voicing my opinion without any fact. I wouldn't be condemning somebody or judging somebody without any fact, just based off of some guy's opinion with no fact backing it.
Can you understand why some people would point the finger at you?
I absolutely understand that.
Next, 4 years in the spotlight takes its toll on the parents.
What is it like to be Jessica Mitchell?
Missing from a remote campground in Idaho. 4 years and still no answers. Where could baby DeOrr be? In 2017, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released this composite sketch of what DeOrr might look like at 4 years old. He would now be 6.5.
He was only 2.5 when he went missing, and now it's 4 years that he's been missing. He's been missing longer than he was with me, and so that's really sad to me.
He'd be working on stuff with me, working on his own stuff, riding a dirt bike, riding 4-wheelers. He'd be building stuff with me. That's exactly what he'd be doing.
You look like there might be a little tear in your eye.
It's not the easiest thing to... I think about this stuff, and it's good stuff, but it's not the easiest thing.
What do you think about?
Just how he'd be now. I keep positive, and it is positive, but the best thing I ever did was been a father, and I've missed out on that. Now, it is what it is. Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Vernal DeOrr says he hasn't given up hope. He carries with him his son's favorite stuffed animal, Monkey, and his favorite toy truck. He showed them to us out at his truck.
We just called him Monkey, and he'd run this poor thing through the mud and through everything else, and I've never washed him, he just goes everywhere.
He'd be holding this and the monkey.
Oh yeah, all this damage is done from him. All the wear, that's all done from him.
Vernal DeOrr says over the past 4 years, people have threatened him in public, called him a baby killer. He says he's even had death threats, lost jobs, and when he tried to rent an apartment in Las Vegas to be closer to family, a landlord turned him down, saying she Googled his name.
And you become lost in the world. And his mother and I, Jessica and Maya, both become lost in this world, but I've learned how to find myself. I was heavily drinking, extremely heavily drinking, after I lost my son. So I decided I'd start living my life as if he walked through my door right now. What would he think of me? What would he think of what I become? And that'll straighten you up quick.
Vernal DeOrr now lives in Bear Lake, Idaho. He's self-employed and has worked in oil fields, driving truck, and most recently, a custom paint and upholsterer for cars. The two high school sweethearts have moved on from one another. Jessica is married and lives in Idaho Falls.
I know that I still have to move forward in life and, have a job and provide for my kids and do what I need to do for myself too.
She says she's also lost jobs, been threatened at her workplace and in public. And at a vigil for baby DeOrr last year, she says someone yelled murderer at them.
What is it like to be Jessica Mitchell?
Some people are very supportive. Some people look at me and instantly hate me. People that haven't even met me before think I hurt my son. And that's the worst thing in the world, because I just wish that for a second they could feel what I feel and know, what I know, that I didn't do anything to my son.
Do you still have a good relationship with her? How often do you guys still talk?
I try not to I have to respect, Jessica she works, she's got a husband, I have to respect that. So I try to be as respectful to her and her husband as I can. But I still try and, when it comes to our son, we still try and communicate and be very civil, because at the end of the day, she was my best friend for years, for a lot of years.
4 people were at that campground when baby DeOrr disappeared. Only 3 of them are still alive. Could one of them know something?
I know that this needs to be solved. I know the parents need closure, and I know everybody just wants to know what happened. So, and I wish I could tell everybody exactly what went down completely, but I don't remember everything.
What is it like to be accused of something like that? What is it like to be accused of murdering your son?
It's sickening. It is sickening how quickly people will turn.
I just think about the truth is going to come out. And, like other people, they're going to eat their words, because I have nothing to hide. I didn't murder my child. I didn't see him get hurt in any way possible.
The new private investigator, David Marshburn, with the Search for Me Foundation, has his theory.
When you work these cases, you have to really concentrate on what is fact and what is fiction. Everybody's got their own say in what happened, and I can pretty much say in what we've done, I can 100% say I don't believe the parents had anything to do with it.
Jessica and Vernal DeOrr say they haven't been formally questioned by law enforcement in quite some time. Sheriff Penner says he talks to them every few months or when something comes up. He says they are cooperative, and we do know the FBI has been and is currently still involved in the case. It is very much an open investigation. The question still unanswered: what happened to baby DeOrr?
Hopefully soon I will be able to know, with Lamhi County Sheriff's Department, with Penner, with the Search for Me Foundation. Hopefully I'll be able to answer that question for you and all of the public very soon, with the help of some very good people. Just bear with me. I promise I'll be able to prove my son's mother's innocence and be able to give everybody answers soon enough.